Still picking up the pieces here on Value Raters Class Acts in association with Tip TV Sport. We've got the main way through the Ebor Festivals meet, but yet to cover the Lonsdale Cup, where of course Max Dynamite was a runaway 4.5 length winner. I looked at the profile of this horse and thought, Willie Mullins, Richie Rich, Frankie Dettori, that's the trio you want, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was Mizzou for me. That was the selection on Audio Boom this day. Each way it was a lot bigger. I think it was around the 6-1.
Representing that Gold Cup sort of form.
Gold Cup form, and of course coming back obviously to the 2 miles, which the horse had won previously at Ascot. And, you know, I must admit I was sitting there a bit smug when I seen the William Buick taking pulls all the way round, and it looked like it was going to go and win a minute. But I must say, my eyes were popping out ever since I seen Max Dynamite. The way it quickened up was very, very impressive at the end of 2 miles against a horse that you know has got group class to beat it. 4.5 lengths, and it was absolutely driven clear in the final furlong, but one was so much in hand. It had only an official mark 107. I've marked this performance 126. We're talking a serious Group 1 horse here with plenty more to give.
To put that into any kind of perspective, now Simonon in 2013, a horse that you know I'm fond of. Simonon ran in the Melbourne Cup, was off a handicap mark in Australia of 115, finished 4th in a Melbourne Cup. Now, if Max Dynamite's going to the Melbourne Cup this year, and you think he's somewhere around the 126, 127 mark, he could be a Melbourne Cup winner, Value Rater.
I've never seen a horse quicken up like that over that distance against a quality, Mizzou. I mean, Mizzou itself had shown that it has got a little bit of a turn of foot, and it just, the way it quickened away, and it wasn't that Mizzou was under pressure some way out. I mean, the horse just kept, came there absolutely cruising Mizzou, and I just couldn't live with the turn of foot.
Any other golden nuggets of information to grab out of that race, or just impressive?
I just think, trip to Paris and Big Orange obviously haven't run their races, probably at the end of what is becoming a long seasons for them. But Clever Cookie obviously ran very well back in 4th, and I think Clever Cookie's ran back bang up to form, really. I think this is really strong form.
Strong form, Max Dynamite. I'd like to hear your views on the upcoming Melbourne Cup, which of course takes place in quite a while's time, but certainly a big betting heat, and people will be getting stuck into that already. A field of 140 were announced this morning. Max Dynamite, one of those that does take to the field. Now, at the Ebor handicap, of course, Litigant. 491 days off the track, a performer on the all-weather. This is one that I'm sure slipped off a lot of punters' race cars. Did it slip off the bottom of yours as well, Value Rater?
Didn't really. I didn't give it much hope, but I think this horse has been frustrating. I think the Joseph Chute has been very, very shrewd here. I think he was on another show, and I think it had been plotted up, this horse. And in fact, I must say, someone else on Tip TV Sports actually tipped the horse up, I believe, in the week. But my selection was Toe the Line, advised at 40 to 1. I think she ran really well. Just unfortunate things opened up for her, for me, a little bit. She was at the back of the field, just a little bit keen, and obviously this horse needs to be delivered late, and I just thought that she's seen too much daylight too soon, really, and just kind of stayed on at the same pace. She's not really a horse that goes much faster off the bridle than she does on. But no, I haven't changed my opinion on the strength of the race in terms of the handicap. The fact that Sergio's there at 40 to 1 off a mark of 104, even though I think that horse is, on its best form 117, I think it puts it in perspective of what perhaps we said before, is that even though it's a competitive race, there's not many horses that look to be seriously handicapped, and going forward, I don't think it was really the greatest Ebor. Fields of Afrany, is it? Afrany, we will be speaking about, obviously, when we get into the St. Ledger, so we'll leave him to them, but a good performance by that horse.
Fields of Athenry we'll be speaking about in the St. Ledger. Stay tuned for that. We'll be coming up just a couple of moments' time. First, worth mentioning Cody Bear's performance over the weekend. Gerard Mosse was absolutely delighted with it, and he said, he's super. I'll be going absolutely anywhere with him. Wherever Cody Bears go, Gerard Moss says he'll go as well, and Clive Cox says this is the best one he's ever had. Before that was, of course, Lethal Force, rated 122. What do you rate Cody Bear now? 127, which is a pound beneath what I actually rated the horse before at Salisbury. I must admit, on Saturday morning, when I saw the price of the horse, I nearly spat my cornflakes out. I mean, I thought there was such a 4 to 6, 4 to 7. I'm not an odds-on backer, but I was thinking this looks an absolute
certainty against these on my ratings, and so it was really. And to my amazement, it went off 4 to 5. You know, for me, honestly, it was a 1 to 3 shot on the form that it showed. I'm not quite sure why that drift. Perhaps different ground. It's shown the horse that it handles the ground well enough. All I would say is in behind, this was a Group 2, but in behind it's very weak. I'm quite sure the horse will develop into a Group 1 horse. The only slight thing in the back of my mind is whether at Group 1 level, whether it's going to have the necessary pace. I was a little bit disappointed in that. I just thought I had to come off the bridle just for a few strides. Okay, it may have been the ground. If you remember what it did at Salisbury when it was across the track and then came over and finished really well, I just wondered whether the horse Optimum Trip might actually be 1.25 miles, but you know, I'm not picking holes in the horse. But it is a horse at Group 1 level over a mile I would like to take on and perhaps find a little bit of value. I mean, at the end of the day, if you hadn't backed it at Salisbury and you went on at the 4 to 5, then you're not going to be wanting to entertain the horse at shortest prices really in a Group 1.
Yeah, well, when it does step up to Group 1, which is supposedly going to come in the Queen Elizabeth II on Champions Day, the clash looks set up with Solo. Now, Solo's, of course, going to be a short price. What kind of odds would you call value at the moment? For Cody Bear and Leicester, I think something around the 7 to 1 mark is where it can be backed at the moment. Have you got value there, or?
No, I don't think you have. I mean, with this, you know, anti-post betting, you know, isn't for me really, unless you've got really enhanced odds. But when you're looking at crammed odds at 7 to 1, you know, you really do need a run for your money. I think it's too early to cut. You know, I like to sit down a few days before, take racing each day as it comes, and you know, gather as much evidence as you can, weather conditions, one thing and another. But if you're asking me, you know, a match bet, and we had Cody Bear versus Solo at the mile, on what would be no worse than, I'd say, good to soft ground, then I'd be back in Solo, only because I just think it's got the Group 1 experience, and I just thought Solo was even going through the gears when it won last time, and definitely has got that kind of tactical championship, you know, pace at a mile. And just in the back of my mind, this Cody Bear, I just wondered whether the horse, as I said, Ultimate Trip, might be 1.25 miles.
Okay, keep an eye on Cody Bear at the 1.25 miles. It's an interesting little debate, especially when Cody Bear turns up against Solo, if that will be the case at the Queen Elizabeth II Stakes at Ascot on Champions Day. Now, on Value Raters Class Act, we really have brought you all the way from the first classic of the season, the Epsom Derby, when this show broadcast its first episode. We've brought you all of Glorious Goodwood, we've had Royal Ascot, we've had the Nunthorpe, we've had many big races in between, including the Ebor, which we've just been previewing. And we will be, of course, giving you the full St Leger, the final verdict on the St Leger in just a moment's time. But having done that, Value Raters in danger of burning out, and we're looking to recharge Value Raters batteries and kickstart the second season of Value Raters Class Act in mid to end October, when the National Hunt season, of course, takes a frame. Now, with the idea of that in mind, of course, just maybe a few weeks off to get stuck into that National Hunt form. How do you take your switch from flat to National Hunt racing? Yeah,
there is definitely a switch. That normally comes, I guess, you know, really truly for me, you know, you're looking at that Paddy Power, aren't you? That open meeting. That is like the real. You've got your eye amongst, you know, once you get to when we're looking to obviously come back, which will be that first week of, I know you've got the OLBG Mares race. You know, that'll be the time we're coming back. And as I said, we are going to take a breather during September, and of course, and come back fresh and well, ready for the jump season.
Yeah, you have things like the Peterborough and little ones coming in there, and you just realise when you pick up a Racing Post in October, then all this National Hunt hits you again. And interesting stuff, of course. We showed the video of AP McCoy earlier, and it'll be interesting to see whether Dickie Johnson can now take the reign and claim that champion jockey title in the absence of AP McCoy, or whether it's time for Barry Geraghty to step up and be JP McManus's #1 and be champion in those green and gold silks again. But that's a matter that will be delivered in late October when we return on Value Raters Class Act. But there's something to leave you with, and it has to be the St Leger final verdict. Now, the final verdict, of course, is probably going to be born out of the form that we saw in the Great Voltager. Worth discussing exactly what you made of that race.
Yeah. Another race at the time, I was rather picking a bit of holes in, really. It didn't, in the closing stages, I didn't think to myself, wow, I'm looking at, horses quick, what we talk about, I haven't seen horses quickening, clear. Was it, is that really classic form when we imagine that Storm the Stars was, okay, he was third in the Derby, but he was being a long way against those horses, Golden Horn, Jack Hobbs, and I start thinking to myself, is that good enough? Is that good enough form to take a race like this? Obviously, beating Bondi Beach, it's got to be said, there was some horses underperformed. Medrano, who was my selection, tentatively, some time back at 25-1, obviously very, very disappointing when I don't think the horse wanted to lead, really. I think he was at pains, really, Philip Macon, and looked a bit keen, and he had his head all a little bit to one side. And in fact, I did look at his, and he was on the wrong leg half the time for a horse that wants to go left-handed. He was completely on the wrong leg, so maybe he can't go that way around. I don't know, but he's obviously not my selection now. I wouldn't put anyone, he well may come back to some of that more positive form. He's around 33-1 at the moment. Balios disappointed, Aloft disappointed. We're not talking about horses here that got beat a few lengths. We're talking about horses that got absolutely flashed. I mean, the likes of Medrano was beaten over 26 lengths, and then you've got to go back to Balios. You're talking 36 lengths. You're talking National Hunt distances. So I think when we...
Does that not make you think then that the two that were neck and neck, tussling, grinding, gritting it out to the line, Storm the Stars, did you not think that makes you think that Storm the Stars, Bondi Beach, these two are surely the hardened battlers that were clear of their field that are ready to take on the St Leger trip?
I like the way Storm the Stars done it. I like like you said that. I like the way he was really digging deep. When you imagine that really after Medrano had made the pace, and obviously Storm the Stars wanted, and it was a real, true end-to-end gallop. And of course, it was left to the stewards to decide whether Storm the Stars kept the race with Bondi Beach. And I must say, Joseph O'Brien was superb in the stewards' room trying to get the race to Pat Cosgrave's. Absolutely, he wasn't very pleased when Joseph was trying to say. But I do think one thing I would say about the race is Giovanni Canaletto was back in third. I mean, that horse, you gauge, if you take their runs before at Island between those two horses, you start looking at it and go, well, there's argument to say that Storm the Stars have improved all that, but Giovanni Canaletto definitely, for me, wants soft ground, carries its head a little bit high. See, Bondi Beach in second of Aidan O'Brien really had the run of the race, really held up in the rear off a real strong pace, and I was disappointed the horse didn't win Bondi Beach. I'm not going to say that the horse is an absolute rogue. I just got this feeling that the horse didn't want to go past, and I thought it was hanging fire. And interestingly enough, when that horse Bondi Beach, of course, took on Order of St George, when it beat Order of St George, in the closing stage, it was very much of the same thing. It didn't really want to go past. It all looked a little bit not ungenuine, but you just thought, oh God, I'm not too sure about this. So, all in all, I mean, if you take Medrano, Balios and Aloft out of the race, forget they're not now. I know they're there, but they've beaten too far to the previous form that they showed. When you remember that Storm the Stars basically finished together with Balios over in France. So when you're dealing with the first four home, which I think we've got to, Storm the Stars beating Bondi Beach, Giovanni Canaletto and Tassar, who I must say I thought was the eye catcher of the race, definitely wants better ground and come back to 1.25 miles.
Yeah, I don't think he'll go for a St Leger.
No, absolutely.
They'll tuck this
absolutely
horse up,
not.
They'll wrap it in a bit of cotton wool, and Harry Herbert will be sure to place him somewhere a bit more suitable next time.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a little bit out of his depth, as you said. Definitely coming back. I do think he's a very, very good horse. I think he's definitely a Group 2 horse in the making. He was very inexperienced. But going back to Storm the Stars, to be honest, I am... and I'm not, people think, oh, he's changing his mind. He said the horse won't possibly win the St Leger. But I must admit, when we talked about a few weeks ago, when I said what I look for in a St Leger winner, this is actually really the only horse that fits the criteria. He's got the speed, he showed the speed. He's got the group class. He's been placed in classics. He's now won at 1.5 miles.
Yep.
And now he's going to go to the mile 6. And what I'm saying, I like to see horses improve. There's no doubt the horse will stay. I'm starting to look at it and thinking, well, blimey, perhaps he can win one of these. I just think he's very vulnerable to anything in the race with a turn of foot. And my selection, which we'll come to in a bit, I think's got that.
OK, now, I'm not going to ask you to tell us exactly which horse on Anti-Post if any you've emptied your bank account on, but whether you could shed any light on where all this money's come for Order of St George. And you know, in the week there was, or was it it was just before the weekend? Wasn't it? I think it was Wednesday, Thursday. Order of St George was snapped from 7 to 2, or 4 to 1 into 7 to 2 into 3 to 1, and it just kept shortening and shortening. So much so that it's vying joint favouritism, if not shading clear favouritism for the race. The Irish St Ledger Trial, is that as good as a Great Voltage win?
Well, there's a million dumb question. What you've got to say is Order of St George before that run finished basically in a dead line with Bondi Beach and Interces with Storm the Stars. So if you're taking the literal form, what you're saying is you've got these horses all finish in an absolute line. It did look very impressive over in that St Ledger Trial, which was the Group 3 over in Ireland, beating Sea Moon. It was visually impressive, very warm before the race, really did have a real good sweat. So perhaps that's something that we should bear in mind, just in case we see him sweating at Doncaster. Perhaps that's not a negative, perhaps it's not so much of a negative thing. But Sea Moon beating that 7.5 length, that really is not very good form. And of course,
I mean, Sea Moon used to be an absolute world beater. Of course, I used to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how good you think he is at the moment.
No, I mean, his recent form hasn't been anything really. I mean, Kingfisher, of course, represented the Gold Cup form. Clearly hasn't run his race back in third. You start thinking, I must admit, visually, I thought to myself, cool, yeah, he fills your eye and stuff like that. But when I really sat down and thought, well, hang on a minute, man, let's have a real good look at what he's beating here. Of course he's going to look perhaps like that. I just can't get it. I keep on saying, and I can't get away from it, that run with Bondi Beach before. Both horses were run over in mile 6 that day in the Curragh Cup, which was a Group 3. Mile 6, and both horses, it wasn't like they all came there and quickened. They were coming off the bridle turning in, and I was just thinking again. I thought, well, have you got the speed, and have you really got that battling quality?
But I think Order of St George, if anything, displayed that, and yes, has been rightly snapped in. But there's certainly no value around the price at 3 to 1. I'm imagining.
No, but I can fully understand through if you're reading form, you've got to put the likes of Order of St George, Bondi Beach, and Storm the Stars. You've really got to have them the same price on form.
So you think those three are completely clear? Of course, O'Brien's also got entered Wedding Vow and Fields of Athenry, 2 there that potentially have got outside chances. You don't always see every piece of form before they turn up at the St Ledger. Sometimes the track, the trip, or even the ground on the day can eke out a bit of unseen potential. I wonder if either of those two have it.
Well, yeah, the Field of Athenry, who we're going to speak about in a moment, is going to be very much my selection. But just to say that with this race, he has got a lot of runners entered there. One thing's for sure, from when I watch the likes of Order St George and some of the other runners he's got there, Aidan O'Brien, is these are horses that have already proven it. They already stay on mile 6 very well, and look at times to me that they're getting a little bit out of pace. You can bet your bottom dollar he's going to put a lot of pace in this race. The $1 million question is, where's it going to come from? I'm convinced it's not going to come from the horses that battled it out. Storm the Stars is obviously going to want to be very prominent, but the O'Brien horse in that race, he was held up off of that race, so I don't think they're going to make it. Fields of Athenry to come on to him. I just hope that this isn't the pace angle, because this is my selection. Of course, was made plenty of use running the Ebor, which is of course over a mile 6. It was the only 3-year-old in the race, 9 stone 3 the horse shouldered under Donna O'Brien, who was claiming 5, was drawn out in 22, had to come across and really waist wide towards the rear. It was upside 7 furlongs out, and then he really did put a very good turn of foot to put a little bit of distance between himself and the opposition, and he looked struggling to get into him, but they went past in the end. But I just think the horse done too much too soon, Phil. He fills me eye like a horse who's got the class for a race like St Ledger. He's definitely going to stay the trip. He's already a Group 3 winner that he proved there in Leopardstown. It might not be the norm. I think it was 1974 when I went rooting back to see the last horse that won a St. Leger, who came from an Ebor. But it must be pointed out, back in that 1974.
You tipped it up on this show.
No, I wasn't. I mean, I was, you know, I would. When I was born, 79, no, 74. But when I went and looked at the handicap mark, it was that horse on that day was actually carrying 8 stone 4 pounds. Well, when you bear in mind that Fields Affery was actually carrying 9 stone 3 as a 3-year-old in here, it's very viable that this is a good enough performance. More to the point, from a rating point of view, I've rated this horse for its performance in the Ebor 125. When you look at the Storm the Stars, where I've got it 118, on my figures it puts the horse £7 clear.
Now, if, and this is devil's advocate, this is, you know, it's what I'm doing, but if Litigant or Segu or Toe the Line said, yeah, we're in for the St. Leger. They're not 3-year-olds, are they? Of course, they're not. But if they had run at 3-year-olds and turned up for it, you know, do they have the sort of profile, you know?
I'm not sure.
Or do you like this Aidan O'Brien factor? The Aidan O'Brien, you know, he clearly knows how to prep a horse for the race, and
yeah,
it seems to be stones unturned.
He wasn't a horse really before the Ebor. He wasn't a horse. I really thought, well, having what I wouldn't want to see on the day is very quick ground. I do think if we have a little bit of dig in the ground, it'd be much more from. Can you remember when the race he ran over 1.5 miles in Ireland on Good to Firm? It didn't look very impressive, but his previous efforts with a little bit of cut in the ground was much more so. What I like about the horse is he's the only horse in the field for me that's got that turn of foot where I like to see in a St. Leger winner. But I just hope they don't lead with him. I hope that what they do is they
use one other.
Yeah, they use one of the others to do that, and perhaps this time he can be held up and then use that turn of foot to good use. But at the moment, I'm not really telling anyone to go and back this horse tonight. So again, it's anti-post. What I'm basically saying is that we've got a lot of horses at the front of the market, are very much of a muchness. And I personally think this Fields, and let's say he's only had 6 runs. You know, he's on his 7th run, would be absolutely perfect. Another horse by Galileo definitely will get the trip. And I don't know, he's one of them that I just couldn't see out the frame.
Is there a sort of a piece of the puzzle missing where if a horse were to turn up that's not on the radar, you'd expect them to win? You know, could a Jack Hobbs turn up and win this race, looking at the field as it is at the moment?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we must mention Mr. Singh, of course. John Gosden and another trainer's got, you know, exceptional record.
Maybe one who's being slightly overlooked at the moment.
Well, I think because we haven't seen him really. Well, we saw him the 9th of July, but he didn't achieve any more there that day than he did at Royal Ascot, really. I mean, he beat Future Empire and Tommy Duck, Horseshoe Bay.
But this is a different kettle of fish, isn't it? You know, mid-September race at Doncaster compared to an early July race at Newmarket, wasn't it? It really is a different kettle of fish.
It is. I think on, you know, my figures he's got to improve. Of course he can do, but he's another horse for me. And when I've seen him over shorter trips at you know, the likes of Newbury, when he'd actually beat Scottish that day, he just looks a horse to me that again lacks that speed that I like to see.
Okay. As an overview, in a nutshell, value raters class act for the St. Leger, if you can give that to us. And just to know who you would maybe play in a match bet between the top 3, you know, Storm the Stars, Bondi Beach, and Order of St. George, and then a value raters class act for the guys and girls at home.
Okay, so with the match, of those 3 horses that I picked, I mean, Storm the Stars, I'd have come out in front.
I mean, you have been with him since episode 1, haven't you? You put him up for the Derby, and
well, I have, but I to be honest, when I've seen him in the Derby, I thought he's got absolutely no chance of winning St. Leger because he hasn't got the speed. But it's just now, you know, that criteria I talk about, and as I said, go back all those years that we've seen how it's all worked out. He is the horse in the field that actually fits it all. He's the one that's there's a lot of horses in here already ran a mile 6. You know, you think, well, where's this improvement going to come? It will definitely come from the likes of him. I just think that one of the second to Storm the Stars, Bondi Beach, I don't know. I don't think that horse is puts it all in myself.
Okay, so Storm the Stars probably solid enough.
I think he's priced accordingly. Around that, you could easily see him. But I just think this Fields of Affery, that's definitely the value rated selection each way in the St. Leger.
And there's a bit more interest there at the prices. I would imagine that's that wrapped up. Any eyes or interest at all in the Sprint Cup at Haydock this weekend? G-Force, Dan Zeno's there.
Ooh, that's one horse I don't want. G-Force.
Okay.
I fell for G-Force. I backed him at Ascot. when he won, and then a few people forgave him and said it was the trip and all this, and I thought, oh, I can't have that at all. And he disappointed again at Newmarket, and I don't think it's the trip with him. I think the horse may have just gone
Not quite trained on, or
yeah, which they can do. Things are not there. But to be honest, I haven't looked at that. I haven't looked at that race, so no. So as I said, you know, I like to take the racing really on. There's a lot of it, and I like to try and keep it sort of day to day. But I do like that. So is that the old? There's an old staying race at Haydock in that. Was it the
old Newton or
Bro? Oh, one of them.
Yeah,
one of them. But that's a race I will certainly be getting my teeth into.
Okay, so subscribers of Value Rater Service can look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you're seeing on the screen now, obviously we're taking a little bit of a break, but when we return, obviously in October, then during that time, in fact, you might think to yourself, you know, I'd like to see this on the show or that on the show. Give us some suggestions. Go to Twitter at ValueRater or email me value.rater@outlook.com. But as I said, you keep them coming. You might have some genius find that you've just found for the Hennessy or something that we can talk about or whatever. But we will be back at the end of October.
Excellent. Yeah, we'd like to hear your opinions as much as Value Rater and myself like to give ours on this show, whether it be your tipping, whether it be horses that you fancy for the National Hunt season to come, or whether it even be what you'd like to see on the show come mid to late October, when myself and Value Rater will be back for more Value Raters class acts. We'll be waiting until the National Hunt season gets jumping, and we'd love you to join us. We'll see you then.